So we have to do plant hormones today. So we have growth and development to be understood properly. Okay, this is important. What is growth? Growth is a vital process. The word vital means which is exhibited by living organisms. Vitality means life. Permanent and irreversible. Permanent and irreversible increase in size or volume or mass accompanied by increase in dry weight. This is important. Increase in dry weight of living material. So we see irreversible increase in size, which would increase the dry weight of living material. A cell in the leaf will not be the same cell in the leaf by number, by the size when the plant is undergoing growth, isn't it? It is a vital process, permanent and irreversible. There is an exception when it comes to plant, because the meristematic tissue will come to action during secondary growth, and the parenchymal cell, which we call it as intravascular cambium, between two vascular bundles, they de-differentiate. It is a parenchyma, it will become meristematic tissue again, and then that would form a continuous ring of cambium and causes the secondary growth in periclinal division, adding xylem and phloem, which are existing in primary growth. This is an exception, but usually when it is meristematic tissue, when mitosis occurs, when differentiation occurs, division of labor occurs, it is permanent and irreversible. I don't see xylem becoming meristematic tissue. This is my point. I don't see phloem becoming meristematic tissue, epidermis becoming meristematic tissue. No, not every tissue. 95% of the plant tissues, once they become that tissue under differentiation, would never go back to become meristematic tissue. This is one point. Okay. Then what is development? Development is the morphological changes understand the definition. It helps a lot to understand a question. Morphological changes and increase in size and complexity. See, there is a word complexity here. It is not simple. There is a complexity increase which accompany growth. Is development. Increase in size is actually growth. When it gets differentiated metabolically, the cell functions in a complexity. Meristematic tissue is a simple tissue. It does not perform metabolism only. It keeps on dividing. Compared to meristematic tissue, a differentiated tissue, a developed tissue is complexity. And when we say complexity, we mean metabolic definitions here. I don't see phloem conducting sap. I don't see xylem conducting sucrose. This is complexity. Okay, development, growth and development. So we have two types of growth. Positive growth and negative growth. Positive growth is when anabolism is more than catabolism. Negative growth is when catabolism is more than anabolism. Then you can ask me, ma'am, how can we even say it as a growth when there is catabolism more? Anabolism is synthesis. Any synthesis, let it be structural proteins, let it be metabolic proteins, the cell increases in size. So anabolism is more than catabolism is definitely growth. But how is it a growth when it is catabolism? It is a growth in catabolism during senescence, when it is getting aged. A plant which is 50 years old, by another year will become 51. It grew. It increased its age by 1 year. But the metabolic complexity of the cell will start slowing down. That is, still the plant is still getting aged, still growing. But the catabolic changes are more than anabolic changes. That is growth. And slowly declines and stops. So you already know determinate growth and indeterminate growth. How long a plant grows. So I have definite life cycles for monocots. But dicots, we have a plant which is living for 1500 years, 2000 years. This is because there is no cessation of secondary growth. Year by year, girth by girth, it keeps on increasing. Correct? Then we know growth reasons. The tip of the root or the tip of the, we call it as apical meristem. Growth reasons. Where do we see the growth commencing? We see it at root apex. This is responsible for the growth of the root into the soil. We see it at shoot apex. This is responsible for the growth of the stem, positively phototropic and also erect on the ground. So this is apical meristem. And we also have intercalary meristem, which causes growth at the nodes. And we see growth in the cambium. We see two types of cambium. Cork cambium. This is responsible for the formation of the new bark on a plant undergoing secondary growth. Then we have vascular cambium. This is responsible for the formation of new xylem and new phloem. Vascular cambium. These are where we see the growth caused by meristematic tissue. One fundamental is, if there is a growth, there is a mitosis, and if it is a mitosis, it is meristematic tissue. Got it? Then phases of growth. This is important. Listen to me carefully. You want to take a screenshot of this? Take a screenshot. What is growth? What is development? What are types of growth? And where do we see growth in the plant is what we discuss now. Then phases of growth. How does growth occur? Growth occurs in following phases. So we see the growth in 3 phases. First one is cell division or cell formation stage. A cell is just forming. Formation stage. This is the first stage. This is where meristematic cells will divide. Meristem undergoes mitosis. Got it? So we always have certain meristematic tissue staying back as meristematic tissue, but the other cells will enter next phase of growth. So formation of new cells by mitosis is actually how multicellular organisms will grow. There should be increase in number of cells to reach the standard of multicellular organism. So we have 2 plant hormones which are responsible for growth. One is auxin and cytokinin. So these 2 are responsible for mitosis. This is my point. Auxins and cytokinins cause cell division or cell formation. Then the second phase is cell enlargement and elongation phase. Now the cell is divided. It completed mitosis. I always say when a cell is dividing, it will not perform metabolism. It is not functional. Once the mitosis is finished, the daughter cell will start metabolism. When it starts metabolism, it synthesizes ATP, it synthesizes proteins, then the cell will start increasing in size and also the elongation occurs the cell. So usually enlargement and elongation is in a cell which is undergoing development, which is getting differentiated. Correct? So the cells usually, how do they enlarge? They enlarge by absorbing water. So turgidity causes enlargement. So during enlargement, additional cell wall material is deposited. Okay. And the cell wall undergoes irreversible extension. So the cell wall will stretch and it is irreversible. Once the cell wall is stretched, this is irreversible. What do you call this property? As enlargement of the cell, the stretch of cell wall. So what do you call this character as? The irreversible stretch of the cell wall due to deposition of extra substance during cell enlargement. This is called as plasticity. It will not go back to its original condition, the starting condition, no? So it is called as plasticity. And who is responsible for the plasticity? Auxins. So this phase of the growth is because of auxins. Cytokinins are more into mitosis. Auxins are more into the differentiation, the enlargement, the plasticity. And the third phase is cell maturation or differentiation. Cell maturation or differentiation. So in this maturation phase, a cell really gets matured permanently. It undergoes structural, anatomical, physiological differentiation. It undergoes structural. We see lignification only in xylem, correct? This is structural, anatomical. Once the lignification occurs, for me the tissue is xylem. Anatomical, then xylem will conduct the sap after losing the protoplasm. This is physiological. So a cell should become anatomically, morphologically developed, adopted to perform physiology. That is maturation. Physiological development or differentiation. So the deposition of lignin, deposition of suberin in the endodermis. Okay, so whatever is, however it is differentiating, it is maturation phase. So slowly they go from category of simple tissues to permanent tissues. So you know primary growth, you know secondary growth. So these are the stages which occur in a cell, whether it is a primary growth, whether it is a secondary growth. And this is influenced by auxins, abscisic acid, okay, fine. The different hormones will help different phases of growth is the point. Then you need to study growth curve. This is sigmoid or S-shaped. So you can actually measure the growth in the plant. The amount of growth in a plant in a unit time is growth rate. So we can take the time in x-axis and the growth parameter. Let it be the weight of the plant, let it be the dry weight of the plant, let it be the length of the stem, let it be the surface area of the leaf, let it be the size of the fruit, whatever is the growth parameter. We can take time in x-axis and the growth parameter in y-axis, and we can plot a graph to understand how growth commences. We call this as growth curve, and growth curve is sigmoid shape. So first it is latent, then there is an accelerating phase, then it declines and reaches steady sigmoid shape. So we have a equation for exponential growth. We have an equation for the arithmetic growth, correct? So please remember the equations for both of them. They are questions. They are questions. The growth at time t is equal to growth at time 0, okay, plus the growth in that time t. So we have equations for the arithmetic growth and the geometrical growth. After organisms and populations, we have more idea about arithmetic and the geometric growth. So in textbook, 2 pages would be there. In 1 page, they would say you what is arithmetic growth and what is geometric or exponential growth. And in the next page, beside that, we have the growth curves for arithmetic growth and logistic growth. I mean, exponential growth. Just go through them. In all that, you don't need to remember anything. You just have to remember what are the equations, what are the 3 stages of growth curve. So initial lag phase is followed by exponential phase. Then it gets decreased in raster and reaches a stationary phase. So initial lag phase, then exponential phase, then decline and steady state, sigmoid growth. Okay. The lag phase, log phase, steady state. This is lag, this is log, and this is steady phase. Okay? Yes? Yeah. Want to take a screenshot? Take a screenshot. Okay. Then we have, this is all about primary growth, secondary growth for a plant, what it is, right? Then we also have one significant growth which we should know, that is reproductive growth. Reproductive growth. So what is reproductive growth? For an angiosperm, because time since we are reading morphology, we are reading in angiosperms only. So growth also we will read there. What is reproductive growth in angiosperm? Development of flower, correct? So when it is time for reproductive maturity, we get a floral primordium, differentiation of the meristematic tissue to become a flower. Floral primordium will become bud, will become flower. So how a plant will come to know that I have to flower now? We don't see a mango plant flowering in December. We always see a mango plant flowering right from April. Correct? So there is an education of a species specific plant that this is the time for me to flower, depending upon whether it is an annual, biennial, or perennial. There is an education for each plant. So what is the exact mechanism, how hormone will come into action is not known, but we understand that a plant understands the environment. So we name it as it is under the control of daily length of light. Under the control of daily length of light. We have a name for this. It is called as photoperiodism. Correct? What is photoperiodism? Photoperiodism is ability of a plant to detect day length. And to perceive light stimulus. Correct? This is photoperiodism. Photo is light, period is the duration for which the light incidence on plant. Different plants react in different ways to the same photoperiodism also. So we have three types of plants depending upon the flowering. This is important. We have short day plants, long day plants, intermediate. No, let us take it as indeterminate. Day neutral. So short day plants means the duration of light is short in a day. Short day plants are actually long night plants. This is the correct interpretation. They want long nights. That means the darkness will induce the flowering in this plant. How can I say a short day plant as a long night plant? When people were conducting experiments, when they interfered with the darkness with flashes of light, short day plants did not flower. They failed to flower. So it's actually not that they want short daylight to flower. They want long darkness to flower. If I interfere with that period of darkness, they fail to flower. Short day plants are long night plants. So we have examples are important. Tobacco, soya bean, coleus. I'm giving as many as possible. Cannabis, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, Strawberry. I'm writing down all so that if you take a screenshot, you will have the content with you. Then long day plants or short night plants. So when I interfere the long day length of light with the darkness, they fail to flower. Short night plants. Examples are spinach, plantago, cabbage, spring wheat, spring barley. Indeterminate. They will flower only when exposed to narrow day length. So it is not like they want always long day or short night, short day or long night, but they want that wavelength of light for that period. Let it be 1 hour, let it be 2 hours. Without that, I can't say particularly long day or short day. It is indeterminate. They want one intensity and duration of light occurring for a period to flower. That is indeterminate. Sugarcane is the example. Only one example for indeterminate. Sugarcane is the example. Then day neutral. So they are not very sensitive to long day, short night. They don't have conditions. If it is a reasonable distribution of 12 hours day, 12 hours night also, they are okay, fine. They will always flower. So we have tomato, chili, maize. Day neutral. Neither long day nor short day, nor a particular wavelength for a duration. Reasonably, they are flowering. These are one category you need to know. Take a screenshot. What is etiolation? I'm saying you a few fundamentals before we go to hormones. If you know all of them, you just have to remember them under that hormone. That's it. Etiolation. Etiolation is the effect produced on growing green plant when it is kept in total darkness. So usually what happens is the internodes will become very long. The leaves will stay in embryonic stage. The leaves will become yellowish because the chlorophyll don't develop. Okay. But if you keep a plant etiolated in the darkness and the growth and development is retarded, if you expose the same plant to the red light, can prevent etiolation? This is a question. because red light stimulates high degree of photosynthesis. Then there is a nutrition available, ATP available, metabolism boosts and the growth commences. That is etiolation. Then we have vernalization. Vernalization is also called as aerovization. Sometimes a question can mention this term also. Aerovization. Influence of temperature in flowering of a plant is vernalization. Influence of temperature in flowering of a plant. Okay. Influence of temperature in flowering of a plant is called as vernalization. So few plants, unless they are subjected to the low temperature, if I say low temperature, it's not 20, 15. For us, low temperature here is 0 to 4 degrees Celsius. And that too for few weeks. Then only the seed will germinate. So we have biennials like carrot, which will not germinate without exposing to the cold temperature, a biennial, and annuals like wheat. Without exposing to very cold temperature, they don't germinate. This is vernalization. Okay. So now the proper plant growth regulators. Plant growth regulators or plant hormones are also called as phytohormones. Anything is same. Phytohormones. So the kinds of plant growth regulators. We have 7 main groups. 7 main groups, out of which 5 of them, namely auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, brasinosteroids. You just remember these names. And oligosaccharides. These 5 groups are growth promoters. These are growth promoters. Whereas the other two, namely abscisic acid and ethylene, they are growth inhibitors. Okay, take a screenshot. We will quickly learn the hormones and their functions. Who found them, how they find them, please go through the textbook, that should be fine. Like auxin, unilateral lumination in the Avena plant by Wendt, Darwin. Okay, and we have when it comes to gibberellin, Gibberella fujikuri, who found it, how they found it. We have the coconut milk, how the cytokinin was found. So we have introduction of its chemistry and how it was discovered and explained. Just go through, write down a tabular form and remember them. They can be questions. So the first one we are going to start with auxins. Okay, auxins. It's a Greek word, auxin, which means to increase or to grow. So that hormone which causes the increase in size of the plant right from the seed is auxin. It is named after the function. Okay. They're weak organic acids. Naturally occurring auxins, this can be a question. So the naturally occurring auxins are indole 3 acetic acid, this is abbreviated as indole acetic acid, and amino acid tryptophan. It is derived from amino acid tryptophan. This is also a question. Which amino acid is responsible for the formation of auxin? Tryptophan. And where is it produced? It is produced mainly in shoot apical meristem, young leaves. If you remember where it is produced, then the functions will be more clear. And seeds. Phenylacetic acid is also a natural auxin. Then we have synthetic auxins. 2,4-dichlorophenoxyacetic acid, 2,4,5-trichlorophenoxyacetic acid, indole butyric acid, naphthalene acetic acid, 2,3,6-trichlorobenzoic acid, So these are even mentioned in your competitive manual. You need to remember which is natural, which is synthetic auxin, because the question may ask the same. Then what are the functions of auxins? When it is in the shoot, apical meristem, young leaves and seeds, the first one will be cell division and cell differentiation. The first function is cell division and cell differentiation. I'm writing development, differentiation as. Then cell elongation. I already told you this. The two phases of the growth, it is important. Then you need to know something called as apical dominance. This is important. This can be a question. What is apical dominance? The dominance of auxins at the apex of the plant. So, if there is an apical bud, a bud at the apex, then what are buds? Buds are packets of meristematic tissue. What do meristematic tissue do? It always undergoes mitosis. So what do they secrete? Auxins are present in very high concentration in the apical bud. Till the point apical bud is growing, we don't see lateral buds developing. For instance, if this is the apex of the shoot and this is the apical bud. This is the apical bud. Growing shoot this is. So till the point apical bud is active, I don't see lateral buds. But if you cut this apical bud, then the auxin will relocate to the next available tip. And then I see from the growing tip the development of lateral buds. To the point apical bud is there, lateral buds are not seen on the growing tip of the stem. This is apical dominance and auxin is responsible. And significance is, if the tip does not grow, the plant will not increase in length, which is responsible for good degree of photosynthesis to expose to the light. This is apical dominance. Then the fourth one is root initiation. If you take stem cuttings and keep it in a solution which has auxin, each stem will start developing a root. Auxin is responsible for the development of root. We studied this when we were reading artificial propagation. The leaf cuttings, the stem cuttings, the root cuttings can be used as a vegetative propagules. Especially if I have a stem and I want a root to be developed, which hormone causes rhizogenesis? The auxin. Then flower initiation. Auxin is responsible for flower. The floral primordium is formed because of auxins. And this is very important function of auxin in pineapple. This is a question. The flowering in pineapple is because of auxin. If you withdraw auxin from a growing pineapple plant, it would never flower. Then control of abscission. This is actually a counter hormone for abscisic acid. Abscisic acid will cause the falling of the leaves, the ripened fruits, or the damaged parts of the plant from the plant. But auxins will control abscission. If I have high concentration of abscisic acid, then that means the plant part is aging. It is undergoing senescence. High concentration of auxins are the sign of active lifespan of plant. So in the process, leaves, flowers, fruits drop off from a tree. If in young leaves should not drop, right? Young leaves should not drop. The fruit which is in the formation should not drop. The flowers should not drop. Correct? Who will keep all these structures intact on the stem? The auxin. When auxin concentration decreases and the abscisic concentration acid increases, then the parts will start detaching. Ring by ring, the cells will die from the point of attachment and the part detaches. Then it causes induction of parthenocarpy. So if I have auxin with me, vegetative propagation is possible. Parthenocarpy is possible. Keeping a plant metabolically active is possible. Cell differentiation, cell division is possible. Cell elongation is possible because it is a growth promoting hormone. So in all the agriculture and horticulture, auxins definitely have a strong role to play. Parthenocarpy. Then sex expression. So reproductive maturity is also because of auxins. Male or female or bisexual flower, because flowering is basically caused by auxins. The sex of the plant is also determined by auxins. So auxin is responsible for tropisms. The concentration of the auxin will cause the stem to be positively phototropic. If I have more concentration of auxin and less concentration of cytokinin, the root will develop. More amount of cytokinin, less amount of auxin, the shoot will start growing towards light. So auxin concentration is responsible for the shoot growing towards light and root growing into the ground. Auxins are used as herbicides. Auxins are used as herbicides. So which will kill the herbit. So broad-leaved dicot weeds. So if an unwanted plant is a dicot and it has wide leaves, the auxin spray on them can kill the weed. It can be used as a herbicide. So root initiation is seen in case of developmental plants like rose and bougainvillea. Examples for root initiation is rose and bougainvillea. Okay. And the parthenocarpy is tomatoes, pepper, figs, and tobacco. Okay, these are the applications of, and even naphthalene acetic acid and indole butyric acid, they are used in storage of potato. So what are not allowed to grow? The eyes of the potato are prevented to grow, so that the potato will not start sprouting. Close to 3 years we can store the potatoes if we use NAA and IBA. Got it? This is all about auxins. You take a screenshot. I'm going to gibberellin. Kurosawa is the scientist for gibberellins. Foolish seedling diseases, Bakane. And this is a question. So he is a farmer, a rice farmer. So suddenly he saw that there was abnormal increase in the length of the plant, and all the seedlings did not develop into rice plants. So they are foolish seedling disease. Bakane is the name of the disease. So the disease was caused by a substance produced by a fungus called as Fusarium moniliforme. This is the name of the fungus. Gibberellins. Kurosawa. This is clearly given in textbook. What is the disease in the rice he observed? Foolish seedling disease. What is this called as? Bakane, a local name. This is a question. And the disease is caused by which fungus? Fusarium moniliforme. This is also otherwise called as Gibberella fugiculae. This is also a question. Now about 110 gibberellins with a specific structure are present in fungi and plants, causing the functions. And the most important of it is gibberellic acid 3, and this is named as gibberellic acid. Okay. Then what are the functions of gibberellic acid? First one is internodal elongation. Internodal elongation. So when the plant is growing from one node to another node, when permanent tissue is late, the internodal length increases. So genetically dwarf plants like peas and maize are sprayed with gibberellins. They grow quite tall and attain growth of normal tall plants. Correct? So internodal elongation. Then the second one is bolting and flowering. Listen to me carefully. Bolting is a question. So biennial plants such as, these examples are questions. Cauliflower and cabbage. They are usually very close to the ground, rosette type of stem. So when they attain reproductive maturity in specific photoperiodic conditions, they suddenly increase in size. The internodes will increase and they start flowering at the tip. Once the reproduction occurs, again it becomes short. So only to produce the flower, the cabbage and cauliflower plants will increase in size. This phenomenon of stem elongation and rapid growth of floral stalk induced by gibberellins is called as bolting. That stem which is very close to the ground till that point will suddenly start increasing in length to expose the flowers for pollination and fertilization. The sudden increase in the internode for the flowering of a plant in biennials is called as bolting. So usually because they are biennials, bolting occurs in second year. But if we can spray gibberellins, we can get the yield within 1 year only. Otherwise, a biennial plant can be made annual because of application of gibberellins, increasing the internodal length for flowering. Then gibberellins are also responsible for sex determination, and expression. Like male flower expression in cucumber and squashes. This can also be a question. So gibberellins are more potent in inducing parthenocarpy than auxins. It is basically a reproductive growth causing hormone than the primary growth like auxins and cytokinins. We see gibberellins playing a major role like testosterone and estrogen during the reproductive phase of the plants. That's why it is more good in making a plant sexually expressive, causing the plant to flower, and also causing a potent parthenocarpy, because it is responsible for inducing the changes in the ovary after the fertilization, forming it a fruit. Then this also causes hybrid vigor. Hybrids usually produce high concentration of gibberellins. Hybrid means the plant should increase in size, and gibberellins are responsible generally in causing the length, growth in the plant, increase in size of the fruit, blooming of the flower. So naturally, if there is a hybrid vigor, gibberellins will play a significant role. Depending upon which plant we want to perform hybridization, we can fix the concentration of gibberellin in promoting the hybrid vigor. Hybrid vigor has high concentration of gibberellic acid. Then breaking dormancy and germination. This is what I'm going to discuss is important question. Okay. Then breaking dormancy and germination. They break dormancy and they cause germination. And in the seeds belonging to the family Graminae. Graminae is otherwise called as Poaceae, the family to which all the grains and cereals belongs to. Barley. So we have an eleuron layer in these seeds. All of you know this. A protein rich eleuron layer just below the seed coat. Correct. It is rich in proteins. Just before germination, when the seeds absorb water, gibberellin is produced, which diffuses into eleuron layer. So when the seed is ready for germination, what is the first step it do? It imbibes water. It breaks the seed coat. It imbibes water. When cells become turgid, gibberellic acid becomes active. This hormone will produce enzymes such as alpha amylase. So alpha amylase causes breakdown of carbohydrates. And that releases the energy necessary for germination. So without gibberellic acid, the germination does not occur. And gibberellic acid concentrates in eleuron layer. After it produces It concentrates in the allulon layer and acts on the endosperm, releases the energy. This causes weakening of the seed coat. Allulon layer is also consumed. Endosperm is also consumed. Weakening of seed coat. Alpha amylase is a question. Commercial applications of gibberellins. Thompson grapes. I told you this. They are seedless, parthenocarpic. So what happens in a grapevine, if this is one internode and this is another node, node 1 and node 2, if two nodes are very close, if I have a bunch of grapes here and if I have a bunch of grapes here, they will not grow completely because the place between them is less as the nodes are close. But if I spray gibberellins, the internodal length will increase. So the grapes will get enough place to grow properly. These seedless grapes produced at longer internodes by spraying of gibberellins are Thompson grapes. And increase the height of sugarcane plants. Sugarcane, the stem is the raw material. If you spray gibberellins, the internodal length increases and the yield of the sugarcane increases. They also delay the senescence in citrus fruits. Alpha amylase, starch digesting enzyme in barley. So for me, barley germination important in brewing industry because beer is produced from it. So it is important for the germination of seed. We can use gibberellins to cause a quick germination in the brewing industry. These are commercial applications. Then cytokinins. Take a quick screenshot. I don't know if I will be able to do abscisic acid and ethylene. Cytokinins. The functions of cytokinins are, so as the name says, they will cause mitosis. Coconut milk containing a substance that stimulated cell division. Miller discovered this. He named this substance as kinetin and demonstrated that it is a derivative of purine adenine. So immature endosperm of maize and is named zeatin by Latham. So the enzyme name kinetin is important, zeatin is important. Please read the introductory part in the textbook. Cytokinins cause cell division. Cell division, organ formation, lateral bud development. So if auxins inhibit lateral bud development, cytokinins cause that. Lateral bud development. Chloroplast maturation. This is an important function of cytokinin. Chloroplast maturation. They cause chloroplast maturation by helping in chlorophyll synthesis. This is important. It delays senescence like auxin. Cytokinin also delays senescence. It increases the shelf life. This is anti-aging effect. This is famously called as, this is a question, Richmond-Lang effect. The anti-aging effect of cytokinin on the plant parts increasing the shelf life is called as Richmond-Lang effect. Then they also break seed dormancy. That means they promote germination. Okay, these are the functions of cytokinins. Commercial applications. The synthetic cytokinin like benzyl aminopurine. This is a question. Please read your competitive part. Freshness of leafy vegetables like cabbage, lettuce by denying senescence. It can be used in tissue culture to promote mitosis. We read this in micropropagation. Okay. And then abscisic acid. The word abscission means to cut outside. Incision means to cut inside. No. Abscission means to cut outside. Seized parts, ripened fruits, seed dispersal, pollen dispersal by causing the dehiscence. All these where a part of a plant has to be separated, the function is abscisic acid. It promotes abscission. It was formerly called as dormin. This is important. Formerly called as dormin. It causes abscission. It forms a abscission layer at the base of the leaf, flower, and fruit. It induces dormancy. That's why it is called as dormin. During unfavorable condition, it induces dormancy. This is anti-stress hormone because whenever there is a stress, the hormone level increases. If it is about to germinate, it is stopped from germination. If it is about to form flower, it is stopped from flowering. If it has lot of temperature and dryness, stomata are closed. When there is a salinity, chilling and freezing temperature, the plant parts undergoes modification. All this stress condition management is by abscisic acid. So it is called as anti-stress hormone. And it causes embryogenesis in seeds, not germination, formation of embryogenesis in seeds. Then last one is ethylene, gaseous hormone. This is the only gaseous hormone. It causes fruit ripening, climacteric respiration. Read the textbook and competitive part, that should be fine. Promotes senescence so that it will fall from the plant. It counters gibberellic acid. Anti-gibberellic effect. Okay, and commercially available ethifone. This is a question. Commercially available ethifone, and it is named by its trade name Ethrel. So it slowly releases ethene. And for citrus plants, tomatoes, banana, and pineapple, it is used as a ripening agent. Pineapple flowering is also induced by ethifone. And garden plants like roses, geraniums, and tomato plants to stimulate branching, to inhibit elongation, and to attain compact flowering. So whatever functions gibberellic acid does, ethylene counters it. So these are the functions. I think I took extra 5 minutes, but I quickly covered the functioning. Anything you get it out, please read the names of the bioassays.